I'm not really cool enough to be introduced. My name is Michael Radigan. I'm with an advertising agency called Javelin. I am SVP of Digital and Technology. So that means I'm introverted. It means I don't give presentations well. It means that I'm more nervous than I should be. This isn't a sales pitch. This is more like a confession. And you all get to be free. I get to tell you all the things that we've screwed up implementing different systems, including Central Desktop. Hopefully you'll be able to take away something from learning, and we can go from there. Technically, my title is that SVP one. My title that I like more is Chief Digital Evangelist. My HR group hates that, but I like it because it gives me at least one little thing that's quasi-interesting about myself. This is the agenda. I'll try and stay pretty close to it. Please feel free to ask me any questions. I'll try and give you as many screw-ups that we did. I'll probably cuss a couple of times, so apologies in advance for that. I don't have Tourette's. I just don't have good stuff. Do you know what the problem with a bridge is? A bridge is specifically built to bring two things together. Two sides of a river, two countries, whatever it may be. That's what it is predominantly built for. People think that their problems are solved when they built that bridge. I can now cross the river. I can now cross this piece of land. That somehow, spanning this distance and saving this time are no longer issues. That getting from point A to point B is no longer dangerous or difficult. Or scary. And that is simply not the case. Because nothing from an agency perspective is scarier than an agency focusing solely on that end goal and not realizing all of the necessary steps that have to go into getting to that point. The agency are the people that are creating it. It's not just there, it's there and magic happens. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. That's actually a bridge in West Virginia. I have no idea. I didn't know, but it's kind of scary. So bridges don't connect people. People connect people. And most people, especially somehow in agency worlds, are not very good at it. They're extremely creative. They're extremely unique. But they often are pretty poor at communicating, at connecting. And that's why Social Bridge, Central Desktop, failed me. Sucked. Horrible, Isaac, horrible. Because I went and said, yes, Central Desktop, let's go with that. That will solve all my problems. It will bring my crazy art directors and my anal retentive project managers, and they'll all get along. We'll go have beers after work. Now, just so you all understand, I've been with Javelin since we were 4. We were an agency that was spun off from RAP. And on day one, we had 90 employees and a Fortune 50 client in SBC, now a.k.a. at the time. That's a really weird situation to have, because on day one, you already have work you have to get out the door. You already have to get those things going. So we have had project management systems multiple ways. Excel, Microsoft Project, a lot of other third-party solutions. They all have pros and cons, including Central Desktop. But when we rolled onto Central Desktop 2 years ago, it helped to expose all of the other things that we've been doing wrong. So I'll talk to some of those things. Ask me anything that you think I probably forgot. Because at the end of the day, I thought that if we had a better system, if we had a system that was faster online, if we had a system that was more flexible and configurable, the users would come. They'd realize the value. I saw the value. I'm not bright. Let's go try it. That didn't work out quite so well. It created confusion about which different system to use, what to use it for, when to use it, how much exposure does the client get, how much do they not get. The previous systems and Central Desktop were not holding people accountable. Somehow the technology didn't hold people accountable. This was frustration. So bridges don't connect people, people connect people, and most people aren't very good at it. But that's not a platform issue. That's not a user issue. It's an agency issue, and it's a human issue. So that's why Social Bridge, thank you, Isaac, saved me and my company. And we'll talk to some actual real numbers. Overall, files aren't getting smaller. TV spots are much bigger than an email file. The security concerns are getting higher and higher when you have different things, Creative Cloud, all the different things that are starting. Is a daily, weekly, monthly, constant reinforcement, and it's training sessions. It's giving people money. It's buying them lunches. It's giving them little fake clout scores that are encouraging it. It's making sure that people understand that if you're going to truly be altering human behavior, it's going to take a little longer than a quarter to roll it out. And positive reinforcement, that's where I start. So Javelin, from our perspective, we're 10 years old, and in that 10 years, we've gone from a single client, a telecom client, to monumental growth over 10 years. 10 years, so it should have happened, right? But moving into new channels. We started off as a direct mail, a little bit of email and analytics. Now, 10 years later, we're doing TV, radio, print, any and all channels, a lot more digital, websites. When you start to expand it out, when you can't use that same Excel project plan for every single project, you start to run into some scale issues. You start to run into some training issues. When you have 90 people, it's that familial type of thing, right? You can go and touch everyone. We're all in one office. You go to 3 offices, 7 offices, 12 offices. You start going global. You can't. We all know this, but we have to have things that are in place to make it work better. Go back 5 years ago, we thought we found it. We used something called Marketing Central, I think was what it was called. It was bought by Unica and then bought by IBM, and it never really worked. People spent more time trying to figure out how to get around using it than ever actually used it. So we spent many, many years and a lot more money than I care to admit to try and make the system understand. So when we went and we said, look, we got to find a better system, we went and evaluated 12 different systems. We went through all these different ones. I brought in every single stakeholder I could find. We had multiple demos, sandboxes. It went on and on. Unilaterally, what everyone picked after I took off Basecamp. Everybody loves Basecamp, and it works really great when you come from a 5-person agency. But it doesn't work really great when you need to go and pass a security audit or when you have a bigger group with Central Desktop. They call it Social Bridge, and it's, but it's the same thing. They saw the value. People were like, oh, WebEx, one button, click, go. The constant ability to be able to add new pieces in, and it just kind of works. When was the last time you guys experienced that sort of downtime? We didn't. Whereas over with Unica's Marketing Central, almost every other week, we were experiencing downtime. So now we have a system that we're confident enough in where we can let clients go and get into it. And that's been the real jump. When we went from not just focusing internally, but focusing on bringing those clients in. Preserving and improving the company memory from an IT perspective, and from somebody that's been here for 10 years, is a big deal. There's a lot of things that I've done, a lot of projects I've worked on, a lot of things that other people have worked on that have only been here a year or 2 years, and they don't have that same experience. So being able to be in every meeting would kill me, and I would die. But it's also not really feasible. And so we all have different intranets, we all have file servers, we all have different things. What we were able to accomplish with Central Desktop, with their tagging, with their flexible type of document management, was that it went there. Oh, you have a question? Did you check Central Desktop? That's the question that people now ask. So when they're like, hey, how do I go and roll out that new clickable video thing? Check Central Desktop. Because if it's not there, shame on me, I need to put it out there. That question, once we were able to go and get people saying that all the time, it really started to just change things. People go and check Central Desktop for things now. It's not all there. That's our adoption curve. That's how we have to improve the friction or reduce the friction. But that's where people are being driven back to. and ultimately scaling at light speed. I'll talk about that. We won a new piece of business 2 weeks ago. It will represent 20% plus growth for us next year. Within 1 week, we were able to turn that new client on, put in their new process, and on the fly, in their kickoff meetings last week and tomorrow, we're building out those different things. We all know it's simple. It's right-click on a folder type thing, but the clients are seeing it as it happens. They think we're awesome. We don't have to go to IT. No! What files can we put now? Every file. Put it all out there. Well, I have some pictures of my dog. Put it out! So from an integrated communications perspective, we wanted to reduce the friction. We have too much email. We would love some of the people in our creative department would love to have us turn off email from 2 to 4, or every day at 2 o'clock, or whatever may happen. But it was too much. People were being copied, and you'd have 9 people, and you weren't sure who was supposed to get it, right? And so you'd have to go and search, it's everything Jacob said this morning, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. We still do it sometimes, a lot. But by being able to either add a little social bridge email address and have attachments just flow in there, the email conversation, people understand what is right and what is not right for email and what should be out there on Central Desktop. And it's a constantly improving kind of scenario, but at the end of the day, they understand that there are some things that email should be used for, and there are a lot of things that should not be. So the more we can lower that, the more we're going to keep improving internally. From the democratization of the project, we have a lot of tech people. From an analytics perspective, we have a bunch of number crunchers, and they're MBAs and PhDs, and they're super smart, but they're even more introverted than me, which is hard. But they have a lot of brains. They've been working at the company for a long time. We have some strategists that are super smart, but they are not outgoing. By adding this level of transparency, by allowing people to have an equal say about the different pieces of the project, we've seen improvements in the type of work, in so much that we actually had a econometric modeler. So he is a PhD, he is stupid smart. He used a model about the decay of manure to go and model this ING project that we were doing. Because the curve worked, I don't know, I'm not smart enough. He's got one of those kind of brains. He's been able to go and get involved on the agency side, on the creative side, on the strategy side of just, hey, what about this? Allowing people to go and post things. The mood board got exposed to a lot more people than just 2 or 3 or 10 or 50 art directors. Everybody could. All right, if it's a bad idea, they go and take it off. But everybody can go and post to it. Everybody's allowed to go and give their 2 cents, still kind of curating it, managing it. There's expertise still. The transparency. Central Desktop will know this very well. For me personally, every month, I want to see improvement. I don't expect 100%. I did 2 years ago, but I've learned. So every month, I just want to improve a little bit. If I was at 55% adoption for art directors, I want to be at 58. Every month, just improve a little bit. Because as long as I'm seeing continual improvement, I'm able to go and continue to see if the product will work. I just have to keep pushing the value proposition for them. And it communicated expectations in a standardized way. This is probably the biggest one that we haven't finished yet. Internally, we're still using Excel, Microsoft Project, a product called PPM Roadmap, and Central Desktop to try and make sure that we are flexible enough to get all the different pieces of that project management equation out the door. From a structuring of the client communications, this allowed us to go and create client extranets with project managers doing it. Anybody can go and add that new client. They're able to go and log in. Hey, they should only be able to see these folders. Not a problem. They should only see, not a problem. It made it the ability, see my spelling error there, sorry. It made it so that the clients were more informed. It reduced the amount of emails that the clients, not all of them, some of those clients are crazy. But some of the clients would go and check Central Desktop first before they go and reach out to us. What we're finding now is that adoption and training and onboarding that we've been doing internally, we're now rolling out to the clients. And so we call them quarterly business reviews, and it used to be a half day, now it's a full day. And the other half of the day, after we've reviewed their business and here's what we've done to improve and don't fire us, whatever, has been, here's how we're going to work better together going forward. And part of it is a session in Central Desktop. Hey, here's how you do link sharing. Hey, is your browser, do you have that bookmarker? One-on-one training with the different clients so that they're able to be using Central Desktop as powerfully as our internal people are. Because that's still a gap for us. It's great to be able to push it out, but we need to be having them push stuff in. We need to be pulling them in. And the more informed the clients are, of course, they're going to be happier. From an IT, from a corporate perspective, the more that we can preserve that company memory. So if I get hit by a bus, or if I decide, you know what, I want to go do something else, or they decide for me that I should go do something else after they see this recording, being able to have information stored in a logical manner, even if it's in a Word doc but it's been tagged in a certain way, even if it's been in a PowerPoint but it still exists there. No longer do we have to worry about going through certain file servers. Oh, was that this AT&T? No, that was a Hyatt. Was it this? Was it that? Doesn't matter anymore. It's out there. We can tag it. We've tried it with different things. We've rolled out SharePoint, and we've rolled it back in, and we've never rolled it out again. We have a number of different document management type solutions that we've even rolled out in the past. At the end of the day, we found that people were using Box, Google Drive, those types of solutions already, and that's how they were finding things quickly, that or email. So being able to have it all in a central location with that ability to go and share it out, gives the different permissions, get it out of email. Because at the end of the day, Javelin's a part of Omnicom. Omnicom is a really big company. Omnicom doesn't like it when we get sued, and we have discovery, and we then have to hand over a lot of stuff. So Omnicom rolls out records retention. Hey, guess what? Email older than 90 days, gone. Poof. Unrecoverable. I don't know about y'all, but a lot of our account people, they broke out in hives. I mean, what? No, I have email from 22 years ago. I didn't know we had email then, but cool. She didn't like that. She thought I called her old. The ability to go and put the documents in the right place. Is this a business record? Is this a product? Very technical, silly type of thing. But it allowed us to go and roll out records retention here in third quarter and not have a single issue that they raised up to me, so it could have been too big. They were able to go and say, this is where these files and projects and assets go. Use it for that. From a records retention, it's a very boring kind of thing, but it's the kind of thing that, for me, IT rolls up into me. It could have made my life a living hell if people had not been able to move things from their email into the proper location. The other big thing is open access from a senior leadership management perspective, because there's a lot of senior leaders at other companies that are not named Javelin, that have nothing to do with Javelin, that may be slightly disconnected from the actual day-to-day work. They may think that everything runs smoothly because there's enough layers and buffer. But at the end of the day, Javelin is moving forward into it. Not quite to where Jacob's at, but moving into a more open perspective. So, hey, I heard that Gerber spot. We had a problem. We have problems on every TV production project. Okay, what was the issue? I don't know, go check, go talk. All of a sudden, every single senior manager gets a single dashboard report that they can go and change when they want to, every single week. And they see it. Hey, here's the stuff that's behind. Hey, here's the stuff that's going in. To the point where people are trying to game when they go and update a status so their name's higher up. That's sad. But that's what they're doing because that's there. There is no senior leader at Javelin that doesn't have that. They may not use it. They can't push everybody to it. But it's there. They need to be taken out. Finally, scaling at light speed. I talked about this one client that we won. And this is a huge piece of business. Multi-channel, multi-everything. The clients are located in about 15 different cities in the U.S. alone. So being able to go and turn on a new client within days, and be able to go and make changes to folders and silly little things, I know, it's wowed them to no degree. They think that we can scale without any problem. We're still in the back going, oh crap, we got to hire 400 people. It allows us to go ahead and do that. By exposing Central Desktop to our clients, we've been able to take some of that magic that takes away confidence. So we know, yes, we're going to put the folders here. What are we going to do with it? We're going to read it, and we're going to figure, but this is where it all goes. It's given them that confidence that we're not superhuman. We're just regular folks that are going to go and follow a process and get your work done. And at the end of the day, we've been able to do it without any IT. I can go and upload as much as I want, as many users as I want, doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about going and getting more users. I do, but you know what I mean. I don't have to worry about the inherent IT risks and delays that come with, oh, we got to push more. Nope, that's Isaac and Mark and everybody else's problem. I just make sure I can upload. And they do. Being able to deliver that and deliver it at the level that we've received has been, I mean, I love it. So probably why they let me talk today. So, how Social Bridge can save you. First off, don't sell your clients on the platform without selling your internal teams on it first. I went and spoke how great it was and how it's going to fix these different problems. And then my internal teams didn't use it, and then my clients asked. That didn't go over well. From an internal perspective, we all understand you have to identify the champions. You have to be able to go and identify the value that it brings for each of the different groups. But at the same time, you have to be patient. We are changing user behavior. And just because they may have used one system before, or just because they've used something else here, that patience is really what will help guide you. From a Central Desktop perspective, we have used their professional services to the point where they probably don't appreciate how much we've used them. They have helped us from a design perspective, from programming, from training, sessions, Word, PowerPoint, you name it. The more you can lean on them, the more that you'll be successful. I fought against that in the first 6 to 9 months, frankly, because I know what I'm doing. I can do this. We can make this happen. I can force it. I can push it. When I finally let go of that, it was shocking how quickly it started to go. And ultimately, remember, Central Desktop isn't what you do. It simply makes what you do easier, better, and more profitable, hopefully. So, a final thought, I have this YouTube video that I got to show just because it will eat up some time and I think it's kind of cool. But you all know what a metronome is, where it's flipping back and forth. So if you put a set of metronomes on a desk, on an immovable object, and you get them going, they'll keep going out of sync. But when you put them on some sort of a platform that allows the platform to move just slightly, as they continue to be out of sync, they'll come in sync. Just because of the platform allows this slight little extra variation. And so from a Javelin perspective, Central Desktop has allowed us to have that flexible platform. It's allowed us to go and pull in really crazy people, complex clients, everybody being a little out of sync, but every month it continues to improve. Every month it gets a little bit better. So let me play that. It's really quick. So you see it's just slightly moving. It seems like they're getting more out of sync. And this was like a year ago when I was about ready to quit. And then all of a sudden, something clicked. And another one. That's where it clicks. They've done it with, dozens of metronomes at a time. And it just works. By giving it that little bit of a flexible platform, a little bit of give, it's able to move. So I thought that was clever. Wanted to share. And that is probably a much shorter presentation than it should have been. But that is my presentation. So I would love to answer any questions about Javelin or anything else you guys want to ask. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
So when you were starting to get your colleagues and employees on board, because that's where we are, what were the biggest roadblocks you faced in terms of specific areas of frustration?
So I'd say every group kind of had their own unique pieces. For project management, it was the complexity or the disparate type of products that they were having to use to try and manage it. And so they were all staying till 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock, and they all felt like they were burnt out. And they felt like people ignored their emails because they were. For the creatives, it was more you're going to try and stifle my creativity. So go away. There's zero chance that I will ever use it. And they didn't say go away. They were ruder. Those were probably the two biggest groups. The account people, they wanted it. They wanted it so they could hold people accountable. They wanted it so they could go and find out what those darn copywriters were doing. So they were on board with it, mostly because I don't think that they were nearly as involved and they didn't realize the inputs that they would have to give. Because now all of a sudden they couldn't go and say, oh yeah, I'll email you that later. There was a single timestamp that everyone knew, including their boss and the CEO, of when they got that brief there. So from an audit perspective, from a transparency perspective, it took away some of those things that were like, oh, I thought I sent it to you. So that was probably a good thing for the creatives to have happen too, because they were able to hold the account people accountable. But the biggest hurdle for me was I would get people in a room and they would say, yes, this is great, thank goodness. Oh, it runs faster. And they would be on board. Yep, I'll log into it later today. Cool, I'll check it out. And then they would forget about it, or they would never go and do a single thing after that. And that apathy. And it wasn't necessarily just, millennial apathy or burnt out agency apathy. It was just the urgent always got in front of the important. And so when we were able to go and stop having these meetings to go and talk about what you were going to do and move it into more of a training session, we brought pizza. And we started at 11:30. The pizza wouldn't come till 12. So we knew we had them for at least 35 minutes. And in that session, oh, here's how we're doing it. And you start actually doing it. And then we would call somebody up, say, here, would you go and try it? I'm not sure if this makes sense from a central desktop perspective. Sometimes they don't do things very right. And we'd have them stand there, and we'd have an art director go, I don't even know how to upload a file. Totally understand. It's incomprehensible how you can do it. What do you think you might want to do? And they go, maybe file upload. So by forcing people to come and then interact with it, it was painful. I wish God do I wish. But by getting people actually using the system, that's when we were able to go and start to break down those first barriers. Does that answer? Okay. Any other questions? I just had a really good answer, Isaac. You missed it. Yes.
Question. You were talking about just uploading as many files as you want and some of the history and things like that. Do you have an archive strategy that you've built up over time? Because I know that obviously, there's a cost for the storage and it can be pretty tremendous, especially if there's a high volume production. Have you guys gotten into that yet?
Yeah, we have a full records retention policy. It's one of the benefits of Omnicom, I guess. They rolled out something and we were able to go and kind of adapt it in terms of types of documents and the length of time. But from my perspective, I allowed the dollars to be a secondary issue. So I would rather have too much information stored on central desktop because that would hopefully be an indication of usage and adoption and reduce friction and have to figure out the build part of it than to try and limit people. So So as we've been rolling out the records rotation across everything, whether it be email or file servers, different things like that, we've been going through central desktop as well. Honestly, at this point though, that's pretty low on my priority list. You're right that it
I'm
can
just wondering if after 5 years or something like that, it becomes a problem.
I would think so. We haven't been on it 5 years, so we'll have to see. But from my perspective, I would still, if I'm not here in 5 years, I would rather have files that I worked on out there as much as possible.
Well, yeah, ideally, everything would be there forever.
Well, sure, but from like an MSA perspective, most of our clients have certain, you need to keep these sorts of files. And they're different kinds, right? It's proofs or whatever, but they want to be able to access some of those at a certain point. So yeah, I'd rather have to deal with that problem from a money perspective than to not have it out there. From my perspective though, the archiving that we've been doing on is in terms of the different versions. So finals. All right, good. Let's keep that one out there. We don't need to necessarily keep all the different work product steps, work in progress techniques. So that's what we've been doing as we work through this. Yes.
In the beginning, you mentioned, the other ways people used to do things, Excel and Microsoft Project and email, and I had something in there about getting it out of email.
Right.
Have you had to do anything to enforce that adoption? Any kind of, we're having the same issue and we've been through all the same things. And there were points where we considered like limiting the file size of how big things you could send in email, or shutting down our servers so people had no choice but to file things in central desktop. Have you experienced any of that or had to?
From that perspective, what we did was kind of two parts. We made sure that only the project management group, a couple of exceptions, had Microsoft Project, and that only the project managers were ever allowed to send a project file to another project manager. So if anyone ever wants to see a project plan or in that sort of in-progress ones, they have to go to central desktop. So if a project manager ever emails a Microsoft Project file out to anyone outside of the project management group, then their manager goes and has a conversation. And they were just fine with it. They don't want to share it anyway. So what we did is we made sure that it was still accessible to everyone. We just redirected people to go there. And by having that central project management office, I think it probably made it a lot easier to make sure that we were able to enforce that part of it. There's still a fair number of people that go and save a report out as a PDF and, oh, here you go. But I'd say that's more the exception rather than the rule right now. Yep.
What challenges did you find by implementing part of the project management? And how did you overcome people actually going?
In terms of, the mobile app, I think, is the biggest one. We've rolled out some mobile app pieces, and for whatever reason, creatives don't feel like it's work when they're doing it on their iPhone. So as soon as they can start, and the more engagement they can have on that app, the better I think that they'll continue to be engaging with it. They're more flexible. Oh, because they're going down to smoke, or they're walking to Starbucks, whatever it may be, that they seem to have a little more flexibility there. So I think the more points that we can reduce the friction of how they interact with it, update with a comment, complete it, different things like that. Yes?
How do you handle hot jobs and don't have time for a project plan? Like AT&T gives you media buy and technically should ship it today.
We do it, in arrears. So there are some projects that come in that are like, hey, our 19-day timeline will be done in 3 days. Figure it out. They go and do it. And the project manager, as something's done, but usually when something is that bad and we don't manage the client in that way to kind of roll that back a little bit, it's going to be done in a very small kind of SWAT team approach. So you get everybody in the room, they get the work done, and then you go back and you kind of, all right, here's what we did. Here's this. And you keep that from a document perspective, not from a post-mortem per se, but more of just, all right, now I got to go add that, so on and so forth. And usually, most of our hot jobs like that are usually less complex. So it's usually an edit. It's more that we have to make something quickly happen rather than we're going to come up with a huge campaign. Any other questions? Yes.
Did you find whether specific teams were more adoptive than others?
Yeah, the project managers were most adoptive. or open to adoption. The account people thought that they wouldn't have to do anything, but then they realized they did, and so I think they were close. The creatives are still the ones that we struggle the most with, but they've seen the improvement, and they've seen the improvements from their other ones. So it's almost it's more of a, when you're having to deal with complex jobs, you realize that you really do want this kind of system. So the good project managers, they've gotten their creative teams doing it because their creative teams have more fun. They get fewer visits from the project manager. So it's as much about the project managers too, being those salespeople into the creative. Yes?
Have you found that you, obviously we're not specific, but that you are able to point to specific revenue increases? Like, have you been able to tie business success? Like, have you seen ROI with using Central Desktop that you're able to sell that in?
We've run a lot of different scenarios. From a confidence perspective, I don't know that I could point to this as being the one thing that did it. We had a lot of other things. We still don't do PR well. Nobody has ever heard of us. We're this, they hear about rap, they hear about BBO, but Javelin, who the heck are they?
I've heard of you.
Yeah, you're I would say that we were able to demonstrate reduced number of hours specifically by project managers on the jobs. So we've been able to increase our jobs by about 30% in terms of volume and keep the same number of project managers. But even more than that, we have project managers that aren't staying till 8 o'clock and aren't angry, other than So yes, there were improvements, but I don't know that it necessarily drove the rest of it. I think it was more about trying to bring up our process to the level of our creativity, to the level of our strategy. It was kind of a deficiency. Yes.
Do you handle a lot of scope management in CDG?
No. Right now we don't. Scope, resource allocation are both handled outside of Central Desktop. It's as much us as them. It's more of how poorly Javelin handles that right now. We, because we started off as that single client agency, we had a tendency for a few years actually to try and put the same square peg in any hole that happened to come in. And so in the last year and a half, it kind of coincided when we realized, hey, we need an actual project management office. We're just not going to have some account people that are detail oriented. That when we started implementing that piece of it. So our hope is to roll resource allocation and scope management into it, but right now we don't. Hopefully next year. Or this year. Anything else?
Do you have any integration with the DAM system?
We don't. We integrated with our Active Directory for single sign-on, but that's our main integration point right now. From our perspective and the way that a lot of our MSAs work, we don't even let people use Box or Dropbox or any of those, so we haven't used that. So yeah, but from a digital asset.
So you guys are storing all the high-res full Photoshop files in there?
Yes, I don't like absolutes, but I would say the majority of them, yeah, the majority of them are out there. And then internally, we have a couple of other systems, but the way that a lot of our work happens, we also work on other people's digital asset management systems, and so we're not necessarily connecting those in because we don't want them to be connected. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys were incredibly kind.
Very, very cool stuff and stuff out of that. We're going to start in about 7 more minutes. The next session in here is actually going to be with Rap.